Hey there, Jake. Hope this video finds you well. Just going to make a quick video here to offer you some feedback on your latest AP practice essay. This was the 2005 prompt over McTeague, the unsanitary dentist, who just wanted to become a very successful dentist and was clearly not going to because he didn't seem to understand the first thing about sanitary dentistry practices. Okay, the essay, I'm sorry, not the essay, the prompt asked you to talk about how McTeague was characterized and how the McTeague's characterization through things such as tone, syntax, diction, and selection of detail, how all that mirrored or reflected the narrator's attitude towards McTeague. So it asked you to do a lot. I feel like this was a fairly challenging prompt. Since this is the first one of these videos, I'll talk about how these videos kind of run. I'll give you a breakdown, and then I'll jump into it. So I try to talk as quickly as possible. I don't want these videos longer than they need to be. With that being said, if I steamroll over things that you need more explanation on, just come up to me in class. We can go over them in class, or if you want to meet during my planning period, if you're available fourth block, we can do that, or we can find some way to work around it. But I don't want you to, if you're still confused after you watch this video, I want you to come to me and help me clarify some things. So I'm going to talk as quickly as I can. I start the video with what I feel like the essay does well, and then I talk about that for a little bit, and then I transition into things that the essay could maybe do better, and then I kind of give it a what I think it would score on that 1 to 9 scale that we've been working with, and I try and explain why I feel like it lands where it lands. Okay, now that the formalities are out of the way, let's get started. So, what does the essay do well? Well, there are a number of things here. You do a great job, I think, of answering the prompt, or at least most of the prompt. We'll talk about ways to perhaps make your thesis stronger in a moment, but you do a good job of talking about how the narrator characterizes McTeague and reflects on the attitude throughout the piece. You do mention very specific literary devices in your thesis, which is good. You talk about diction, detail, and syntax. Um, uh, what's the one you're missing here? Diction, detail, syntax. I think the other one was um, tone, right? Um, but the fact that you didn't talk about tone is totally fine. I feel like people tried to do too much, especially for this being their first AP Prose essay. And they felt like they needed to talk about all four. I've said this in class, but just to reiterate, you don't have to talk about every single literary device that they give you. If they give you four and you talk about two in depth, that will suffice. You know, I've seen level 9 essays that are able to do that. If you pick too many, you run the risk of not being able to delve into any single one of them in enough depth to score high enough on the exam. So good job not feeling boxed in by the prompt. You talked about diction, detail, and syntax. I felt like you did a good job organizing your essay around these literary ideas. It made a lot of sense to do that. Your first paragraph was about diction, your second was about syntax, and your final one was about the use of selection of details. Good job organizing it. I didn't feel like the essay was unfocused. And that's good. Organization is one of the hardest things to teach in writing, so it's good that you're kind of thinking in a logical progression. What's the best way to structure this essay? So kudos on all that. You do a pretty good job of following slice format. You do have a topic sentence followed by your evidence, right? Good quotes from the text followed by some solid reasoning. Your transitions as well between your paragraphs, I felt like were pretty solid. They're there. I have a lot of people that just don't put transitions in, and I'm not sure why. So the fact that you have transitions in between paragraphs, even if there's something as small as this one, like the use of diction, um, that's a good sign, right? It's good to. It's hard to explain what flow is when we talk about writing that flows, but the key component of that is transitions in between paragraphs, and certainly transitions between any ideas individually in your paragraphs. So yeah, good transitions. It's organized well. I feel like your thesis answers most of the prompt. I feel like you've got a really solid example of the funnel down intro here. Good job talking about how everyone has dreams and desires, and how we narrow that then down to the narrator and the speaker who have desires. So good job implementing what we've talked about in class. And yeah, so all those are excellent, excellent things. Keep those up in your writing. Okay, now we're going to talk about things that the essay maybe doesn't do quite so well, things that we want to focus on. You'll notice I've got a lot of comments here that have numbers on them. By the time that you, by the time that you watch this video, you will have the handout that explains what all these mean. Generally speaking, if I won't delve into every single one of them. I'll trust that you can read them and sort of figure them out on your own. But if you have any that you don't know or don't know how to fix or you don't understand what the error is, call me over. Um, there are, right where it stands now, this is going to be my main focus for what I want you to address in your writing. You don't have a single grammar error going on. You don't have a recurrent grammar error that I've noticed. I think you had a handful of threes. Threes are where you have commas and you just don't need them. Remember, pausing is not a reason to use a comma. We often think that commas are synonymous with pauses, but they're not. They serve a kind of specific grammar function. So if you can't think of a reason to put the comma there, don't put it there. But you have you got a sentence fragment here that you've got to run on there. Um, Grammar errors by individual grammar errors are not an issue. If you have a if you have a comma error, if you have one comma error in your paper, right? Or one misspelling in your paper, it's not going to take you from a 9 to a 6, right? It's not going to drop you uh, exponentially. If the grammar error is small enough, I don't think it's going to drop you at all, right? If you misspell someone's name once, that is not what's going to keep an 8 from being a 9. The issue comes when it gets in the way of your the meaning behind your language. When it becomes too much of a distraction, right? It's it's as if it's when it's kind of like if you're watching a movie that's got really bad, um, really noticeably bad CGI, it kind of takes you out of the experience, right? But if you have a little bit of continuity error, right, where the guy has the cup on the right side of his plate, but not on the left, you won't notice it. I feel like this metaphor is kind of falling apart as I'm constructing it. But basically, the idea is if you have one grammar error, it's not a big deal. But you have too many going on, and they're distracting uh, from what you're trying to do, which is answer the prompt. So one or two isn't an issue, but it does reach a point where, and I'm not sure what that threshold is. I don't think there's a specific number, right, where they go, okay, this had two comma errors, and now this has three, so now it's going to drop. I'm not quite sure what that line is, but from my point of view, it's on the wrong side of that line. It becomes distracting a little bit when I'm trying to when I'm trying to pay attention to the thinking in your language. But you've got a sentence fragment here. You've got a typo here. McTeague's name is misspelled. And, there was a lot of capitalization errors going on. So you capitalized things that didn't need to be capitalized and didn't capitalize things that did need to be capitalized. So whenever it becomes an issue, the automatic score in here, it's not going to get past a 3. Um, and uh, and it that's just the threshold, right? Even if you write a really good essay, but it's just riddled with subject verb disagreement errors or what have you, it's not going to get past a 3. So we can talk about scoring now. I did score this as a 3 for that reason. I feel like if you can correct the grammar errors going on here, then um, then it bumps you to a 5 automatically, because I feel like there's enough here to get. It will certainly bump you to at least a 4. And so I don't want to overwhelm you with too many things. That's the main thing going on right now. Is it's the grammar. So we want to address that first, because until we get past that, I can't push you any higher on the essay uh, uh, than a 3. Right? That's just the way the exam works. So I want you to go over these, and I want you to start memorizing anything that you notice going on. So like I said, you have 3s, you have a few 9s. Those are capitalization errors. So pay particular attention to capitalization and commas, and I think you're going to be okay. Other things, bigger things, if you're going to look ahead, I feel like the essay as a whole doesn't really explain what the narrator's attitude is, and I think this stems from the vagueness of the thesis. You say the narrator characterizes and reflects on the attitude of the main character throughout the piece, but you don't explain what that is in your thesis, which is kind of a red flag for me. You want to explain to your reader up front that you know what the narrator's attitude is, and you're going to prove to me what the narrator's attitude is. If you try and keep it a mystery to your reader is going to assume that you don't know, right? And you're just kind of like, it almost reads like you're stalling for time, right? That you don't know what the narrator's attitude is, and you're just kind of going to run the clock out. Um, there's other errors in here. You just have some informal wording. Try to avoid the use of words such as sort of in your writing. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to overwhelm you too much. This is about where I expect most people to land in their first go. So don't panic or anything like that. I expect most people to land in the 3 to 4 range. This is a solid start, right? And this is where I expect you to be. So as you revise it, I want you to pay particular attention to the grammar errors that you've got going on in here, and really focus on fixing those. Once we fix those, then I can really push your score up. But again, just to reiterate, that's the foundation that we need. We can't go anywhere until we've got our grammar game on point, so to speak. Okay, I've rambled on enough. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Apologies for that. Excellent work. Keep it up. If you need help as you revise, just come find me. And yeah, I think that's it. Hope you're having a great day, and I will see you in class very soon.